Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone and everything in between, welcome to the Stay Positive podcast, where we put the meaning in meaningless, exist in existential, and stay positive in the Stay Positive podcast. I'm Alex.
That was good. I'm Pete, by the way. That was good. I like that.
Thank you.
And we have a guest.
Do we?
We have a guest.
We do, actually.
Oh,
Hello.
snap.
I'm Nick.
Hello, Nick. How are you today?
I'm chilling. How are you?
I'm tired, but not too tired to talk about stuff and life and stuff, our specialty.
Yes, exactly. You remember when we talked about basically the hole in math, that math just makes no sense. Math is a paradox.
Of course.
I mean, Pete, I'm a major in math, and I'm pretty confident I know a thing or two about math. What the heck are you talking about? Math seems pretty real to me.
Math is pretty broken, man.
I don't know, Pete. It's 2v1 here. I'm also a math major, so you're gonna have to convince me too.
Oh, that's tough. Okay, well, we already talked about it to an extent, but realistically, if we tried to answer all the questions in the universe nowadays, I don't think we have a good foundation to do so, mathematically speaking. Definitely not empirically speaking, because, hardware has a long way to go. But I'd say just simple calculation ability, I don't think we can.
I mean,
there's got to be something more. I feel it in my bones.
Never is a funny word, Pete, because there will always be a future where things get better.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I say right now we cannot.
I would totally agree with that. Have you guys ever thought about the fact that math hasn't changed since Isaac Newton and Leibniz invented calculus? Like, we've been doing the same thing the same way for over, 300 years?
I mean,
I think that's kind of silly.
What, you want to invent a new...
I would love to if I could, man. I'd be making a big check if I could.
Dude, Isaac Newton inventing calculus really just, it fascinates me and bothers me, because because you can do all the physics calculations with algebra, and one day he was just like, nah, this sucks. I hate doing this algebraically. Let me just invent math to, help myself solve it better. And he did.
How does one do so?
The question is, did he invent it or did he discover it?
Oh my god, problem. I'm so happy you asked this.
That's the problem.
I was going to get to that question eventually, but thank you so much for bringing it here.
Hey.
What is your take, Alex?
On did he invent calculus or did he discover it?
Yeah.
Or is math in general invented or discovered?
That's like asking if the universe was created or just happened.
Was it?
I don't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I think everything in the world was created, or it came to be, and we just happened to fire, for example. It's we didn't really invent fire. A bolt of lightning just struck something, and we were like, "Whoa, this is pretty cool." And then we were like, "Let's do it ourselves," and we did it ourselves. But we didn't invent it; it existed. We just came to understand it, and that's kind of everything. Even animals, crows. They're pretty smart for birds. They learned how to pick up stones and drop them on turtles and such, and clams to break their shells. It's they discovered that. We know that already because we're pretty smart. The bird, well, yeah, don't roll your eyes at me, Pete. But even a raven or a crow figured it out that you can break the shells off of animals. And if a bird can figure it out and we can figure it out, everything's there to be figured out, no?
I totally agree. I think that math 1000% is discovered. It's not, we don't create it.
No?
How? Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Can you give
both.
me a counter argument?
So you think it's discovered?
Yeah. He gave some great points. I would be reiterating if I tried to say it.
So
yeah.
There's a distinction between discovered and invented, right? So it's
think of the New World, when the sailors came to the New World, to the Americas were there. They didn't invent it. They showed up and were like, hey, this is pretty cool.
So is you being able to perceive something dictate what you can and cannot create then?
That is such a good question, because that basically is, the famous question, it's if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Oh, we're talking quantum mechanics right now?
The technical answer is no, because sound is a perception.
That's
if
right.
no one can perceive it, it doesn't exist. which makes me angry because it's like, well, you're telling me it's there.
Yeah,
I
that's like
actually-
the classic. No, go ahead.
I have a bit of a counter argument, and rocket scientist, so you can disprove this.
Metaphysics are we going to use?
No, not quite. But technically, sound isn't only a perception. Sound is a wave. Sound propagates through the air, so it's there regardless of whether you're hearing it or not.
But if you cannot perceive something exist, does it exist?
So we have 5 senses.
Yes, because it's a wave. That is happening independently of what is going on in your sensory motor complex.
But like, if I'm not there to hear it,
Do I care?
It's not. Yeah, it's not real to me. I don't know. I
Yeah.
didn't hear it, so it's not a sound.
Yes. Okay, we need to amend your statement to say it does not exist for you.
Exactly. No, but the statement, the whole expression is, if no one is there, like if nothing is there to perceive it, does it make a sound?
Is there such a thing? That's like a deterministic universe, though. Is there such a thing as that?
I mean,
In math in general, I guess, too.
I don't know. I didn't invent the world.
Is there a deterministic universe? Ah, that's
like everything
tough.
is set.
That's what, like, Einstein's famous quote when they were talking about quantum, he always used to say, like, I'd like to believe that the moon is there even when I'm not looking at it. Which is, like...
Yeah.
It's a pretty nice quote.
Yeah.
Pretty smart man.
Yeah, he was okay.
He
But
was all right.
I gotta say, the one thing that this brings up also is special relativity. Because his whole idea behind figuring out special relativity was, why are we able to kind of go through time in certain ways that are, likened to objects moving at higher speeds? Like why is time why am I passing through time a certain way versus something that's moving way faster? Almost at the speed of light. And the truth is, you don't move the same way.
You mean us compared to light,
Sure. Us compared to something moving that fast.
which is only light,
Uh,
as we know it right now.
Technically, yes.
We have entered physics and left the math.
No, we're gonna. This
Physics is just math put into reality.
Physics is applied math, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think Nick? Do you think we'll ever be able to travel the speed of light?
Mm,
That'd be pretty useful.
no, I don't think we will. At least not for...
Too much friction.
Yeah, definitely too much friction. Yeah, I don't think we will. No.
Oh well.
I think the interesting way to travel would be at some point to manage to go through wormholes and stuff like that. But
So
manipulating space, not manipulating your own velocity.
Euclidean space,
Yeah.
just going through a door and walking to the other side of the planet.
Yeah, basically.
That would help.
Here's the thing, though. I have theories, but I don't have any mathematical foundation to support these theories, really. It's the stuff behind time travel and the fourth dimension, manipulating the dimensions of reality and everything. I don't know. It just seems so weird to me that we are passing linearly through something that very much can be, you can exist in it in a very non-linear fashion. It's been shown before, and we can do it with objects. We can't perceive it correctly, but we understand mathematically how it works.
Are you talking about quantum tunneling?
You're talking about the movie Arrival?
Oh my god. But yes,
Have you seen that movie?
in a way.
No?
Oh, you want to explain to him?
So the movie Arrival is like, 9 alien spaceships come to Earth, and
Yeah.
they're just like rocks, essentially, and inside there's like 2 aliens behind this like glass pane. And everywhere around the world, they assemble teams to essentially communicate with these things. And as they start to communicate, they learn that their form of language, spoilers by the way for anybody listening, as they start to like communicate with them, they learn that their language is like, it's not just how we perceive language and like in order, like as I speak, you hear me. It's like when you speak, you are referring to different moments in time, and it allows you to see and experience time differently as a whole. I don't know if I did it justice, Pete. Do you have anything to add to that?
So like the timing of which you speak is part of their communication?
No, so like if I told you like blah in Alien, it's
Yeah.
like I have just conveyed things that will happen in the future, past, and present all in the same, like all at once. They know what's going to happen,
Oh,
and they can kind of express everything at once.
They can see, they have a self-awareness of time.
Kind of, but it's like in their form of expression that allows them to see that and use that.
That's how do you communicate with something like that?
You can't, because you are living in independent cross sections of time, whereas they exist throughout.
Sphere going through a piece of paper, you just see the circle, right? So
Yeah.
That. Side note, there's like I read an article about like a ballet school in India or Bangladesh, and you know how in like driving or tennis or anything, there's like the 12 o'clock position, 2 o'clock position, like positions on a clock to like help you figure out what position to be in. So in this school in Southeast Asia, they actually go by where the sun is. So they'll say point to the sun, or point like away from the sun, or point like everything about their positioning is based on the position of the sun, and as the day moves away, it follows the sun. So if you say point to the sun at like 12 o'clock versus you say it at 5 o'clock, you're going to be pointing in two different positions. And that seems for us, I'd say, rather cumbersome to like remember like literally where the sun is at all points of the day. But they, because as children this is how they're taught, they innately know like what the position is. And I don't know, that sounds pretty similar, or somewhat similar to like the alien example, but like in real life. And because it's like the same like methodology of like get in this position, but done in two different ways, and one revolves around a perception of time. And I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought what was really cool about that movie was the fact that they created a whole language that you see. It was basically circular format. It wasn't just linear. On a line. You don't read from left to right there. You look at the image and you understand what's going on. I mean, of course, the time concept as well was one of the big things, but also you see the circle, the fractal shapes, and they're basically like ink blots. At least that's how they do it.
Yeah, they're pretty much ink blots that have a couple like tails coming out of them at different points, and those denote, I guess, different words, different things, meanings, symbols.
That's their written language.
Yeah, imagine a combination of Rorschach ink blot and circles. Like if you could think of something, that's what it would be, and it's crazy.
Isn't it amazing that like, even as humans, we can go somewhere with zero knowledge of a language and eventually figure it out?
At what age?
Yeah, that.
Any age?
I mean, colonizers, like people who went abroad and they met foreign people, they didn't know this. They didn't speak the same language, but somehow they figured it out eventually. And I don't think they were children.
Maybe. I've always thought about that. It's like, was it somebody who put in the work and figured out the language, or was it just a child that was brought up with both cultures that just figured it out?
Oh, actually, that's a pretty
like,
good theory.
Yeah, like I grew up bilingual, and I don't remember learning one versus the other. I just kind of grew up speaking both. So
that's true. No one taught me Romanian, and albeit I don't speak it particularly well, but I do hear it pretty fluently. Like, I can understand someone speaking it, but no one told me how to do it. I just do it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same for me for Greek. I actually learned Greek first, technically, because that's what my dad would always speak to me when I was a kid. But then, obviously, growing up in the States, you speak English your whole life, and I went to a Greek school for a while, but I'd say that despite being able to speak it fluently and understand, everyone that speaks Greek, I'd say I have the vocabulary of a 12-year-old when it comes to Greek.
That's good enough.
I just never...
Get by.
Yeah, exactly. I can have perfectly fine conversations, but I just don't have words like supercalifragilistic, I don't have
what
that.
What language does have it?
So
here's a fun fact. Did you know the proof to prove 1 + 1 = 2 is like 700 pages long, apparently?
Yeah, it's wild.
That's ridiculous.
This actually is so interesting. I was trying,
but it was proven, so I can use it.
Yeah, so I was gonna bring up this thing that, well, it was related to the math topic, but basically the hole in math was discovered because of David Hilbert trying to show that math is complete, consistent, and decidable.
Gödel proved he disproved one, or so we think, in my opinion.
So we think. Interesting. I want to hear your hot take on.
They put a question mark on consistency, so it's like things can be consistent, but you can't prove consistency, I think, was the second thing. And then deciding, I think Turing disproved.
Yeah, Alan Turing. Smart dude.
Also, his opinion.
Oh my god.
Medium level smart dude for Alan Turing.
Yeah,
okay.
he just invented
Yeah,
computers.
Yeah,
It's
it's
fine.
like he just.
Okay, wait. Why you're trying to stir the pot right now? Why are you so like, oh, their opinions?
I mean, maybe we can prove them wrong.
Well,
Theories have been proven wrong before.
of course, but they have spent years on that, and we have a conversation.
True. But they only kind of started in those years, since they kind of sort of invented their own theories at the time. Whereas our current selves and our future selves have them to look at and to build off of that. Like, at the end of the video, math is, like, flawed, or whatever the name of the video
Yeah.
is. It said, you would think if you disproved that math is kind of meh, it's flawed, that all the mathematicians would just like kind of give up and feel depressed. But apparently they had the opposite effect, where like after Gödel and Turing did what they did, people are now like inspired to like keep going to see how much we can figure out.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe you'll prove them wrong.
I think that we will. I think we have to. I have the kind of Hilbert idea of it, as in we must know.
Yeah.
At the same time, we definitely do not know right now.
Not yet.
I wonder if it's like the way we've set up the system is why we're failing though.
I think it is.
In terms of like the way we reason and we use logic based like things.
I think so. I was talking about that with my friend the other day as well. I was like literally saying, how far down the rabbit hole have we dug, and where did we make a wrong turn? Because ultimately some stuff, I feel like it does have to hold true. Of course, the incompleteness theorem with axioms, fundamental axioms that cannot be proven, that's something that's really difficult to get more granular than that.
Who was that? Conal? Who was the guy
Conway?
who did this? Conway.
John Conway.
Conway Game of Life.
Yeah.
That thing was really cool also.
It's really awesome, yeah. Do you understand the rules? I don't properly understand which boxes live or die, but
It's a
It's
box
white
that
is
doesn't touch.
alive, black is dead.
but after each frame, like how do they get killed off? Because I know, what is it? If you're touching 3 boxes,
So So the rules for this game of life. Then you can Google it. Who is it? Conway again?
Conway. John Conway.
So the rules are like you have just cells. You have like blocks. Think of like an Excel spreadsheet, and if you're alive and you have either less than 2 neighbors or more than 3 neighbors, you're killed. And if you're dead but you have exactly 3 neighbors, you're put back to life.
that's the rule.
And those are the only 2 rules, and you get like 15 different patterns, or not patterns, that's the wrong word. 15 different like ways you can go about. You can like loop, you can stay constant, you can forever die, you can live on forever. You can like not loop per se, but you can like pass through. Like the pattern will not stay in one place, but rather keep going forward.
Yeah, like a snake game.
Yeah, and and there's a variety of each of these types, and it's just weird. And then at the end, they blew your mind. Spoiler alert! By creating the game of life within the game of life, which
So freaky.
Iterations just.
By the way, that video as well was kind of sparking my curiosity on the topic, but this topic in general, like a Turing machine being Turing complete, anything being Turing complete is essentially an argument for simulation.
Shut up. Ah.
What were the checkpoints for being Turing complete again?
I forget.
Basically, any system that can simulate itself.
Oh,
Okay.
isn't that everything?
Yes, but also no.
So kind of like the game of life, where it's like you can place the game within the game.
Yes.
Okay.
It can simulate itself, and it did so successfully.
So
it was
it can-
beautiful, too.
Pretend to be itself.
Yeah, but
How does that make?
I cannot simulate. I'm not Turing complete, for instance.
Like if
cannot
you put
simulate
multiple
myself,
Pete's together, like you don't get like a larger Pete.
right? You cannot find a Pete within me. I'm not a Russian doll, you know?
What if it's like, you ever see like either The Simpsons or Adventure Time, where they kind of like zoom out of the universe, and or no, they zoom in, like, and they're zooming in on a microscopic level, and then they go to the atom, and they go further and further in, and then it like loops back into like the universe, and then it goes back to you. It's like, what if that?
That's a wild thought.
Oh shit.
So like you said there's no Pete within a Pete, but like, what if your magnifying glass isn't just not strong enough to see like every atom is actually like a universe with another Pete in it, and you're just a bunch of Petes in a Pete.
See, this is why string theorists try to use 13 dimensions to justify their calculations.
There's 13?
They
can add as many as they want.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
an
but,
nth
like,
dimension.
Exactly, there are n dimensions.
Yeah, I was gonna
for
say, it's
all
like,
I
why
know.
13?
I don't know. I don't understand it.
No need to stop there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just keep going. Let's go for 14.
Think of it like this: if Richard Feynman said that, if you think you understand quantum mechanics, then you don't understand quantum mechanics.
Okay.
He said that about stuff that is just three-dimensional, kind of not easy stuff. It's very difficult stuff, but, that's kind of the first step that these string theorists have to learn.
Okay.
So imagine now going deeper down that. I just couldn't imagine the level of the abstract nature of all that knowledge.
It does get really abstract, doesn't it?
I'm sure someone will figure it out in the future. Or die trying.
Is there a limit to what we can know?
It's true.
Well, I guess physically there should be, right?
No, Pete,
because there's a
you're wrong.
finite amount of gray matter
No,
in your
Pete-
skull.
Pete told me this, and it made me sad because it's half true. He said,
Oh my God.
your imagination is limited to what you know. And that made me sad for a little bit. But then I countered him by saying, what we can know is infinite, which means our imagination at its limit is infinite.
It's like
He pulled the Uno reverse on you there, man.
Well, no, not. I agree with him. It's the different sizes of infinity. You have infinities that are larger than your natural numbers. You have infinities within your
Rationals.
yeah, exactly. Irrational numbers like
Was that
pi.
like Cantor's proof? Or
Yeah, diagonalization proof that
Yeah.
prove that there are that's crazy. The infinity between 1 and 2 is larger than the infinity after, I don't know, a Google or whatever, growing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc.
I mean, I don't want to brag, but that kind of makes sense to me. Like, even before, like, like when he explained like which of the infinities is bigger or are they the same, I'm like, it should be the space in between should be bigger, because between 0 and 1 you have, let's say, like 1.1, and between like 0.1 and 0.10 and 0.11 you also have infinite, and then you just keep going further, like 0.110 and 0.111 there's also infinite in between them. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's like there's like infinite infinites within 0 and 1, whereas infinity itself is just infinity. So I guess that would technically mean the space between 0 and 1 is infinity to the infinite power, which would be obviously bigger than infinity, I would assume.
That is damn interesting. I never thought of it like that, but it makes total sense.
Neither
to
did
me.
I just figured it out. Maybe I have a point, maybe I'm just spewing nonsense. But what is math? Just nonsense we decided made sense.
I mean, you're stumping me here, man.
Dude, he's
You're
getting
really
both of
stumping
us
me
right
right
now.
now.
Much respect, Alex. You're doing.
So then that goes back to maybe it is invented. Maybe it is just invented.
I don't think so. I can't.
So
bring
you're
myself-
really on the discovered bandwagon.
I think it's just
It has to be.
it's just
What
something.
do you mean it has to be?
It's something we found that we said prescribed meaning to. It's like, audience, you can't see me, but I'm holding my phone right now. It's like, this is my phone. That's my phone, you hear? This is what we perceive it to be. But like, if you gave this to like a caveman, he doesn't know this is a phone. To them, this is just a shiny rock. What we know is what we perceive. And we can discover things, like the caveman can figure out or be taught that this is not just a fancy rock, this is like a phone. Or we could devolve and say, this is just a fancy rock with fancy electricity in it. Everything is our own perception. So, but as far as as far as invented, it's like we discover something and we utilize it. we discover something, we prescribe meaning and thought into it, and then we utilize it. That's how tools are. That's basically what tools are.
So you think tools are discovered?
Tools, yeah. You found some sharp rock and realized, hey, this sharp rock can cut things that this dull rock can't. So,
I don't know. I think certain tools are invented. I never found like a wrench when I was just walking around in the forest, you know. There's like certain things that maybe the general makeup of it was found naturally, but you have grabbed it and created it. Like you've built something for a purpose that wasn't there before.
you know what? He has a point.
But listen, I feel like this is a difference between the ever expanding. I want to put it in kind of universe terms now, because that's the way I think of it. It's like a glass of water, or you pour water into a glass and it's taking the shape of that glass, versus a loaf of bread with raisins in it, in a way. You know, like one of them is kind of fitting the mold, or it is expanding. The breadth of knowledge we have is expanding for our needs and the things that we have to do to evolve technologically, whereas the other one simply is already doing so regardless of what is surrounding it. You understand?
That's just the physics of water, of liquids and solids, Pete.
Okay, but
It just kind of sounds like you're making it seem like, so if there was ever a possibility that it could have been, it was discovered instead of invented.
Actually, no, wait, Pete. I'm going to blow your mind, maybe. It's like, what if someone before us, like, invented, like, rocks and stuff, and all that stuff that we discovered is actually some guy's leftovers, and we are just, like, figuring it out ourselves. Like,
We call that person God.
yeah, I mean, well, as far as we know.
As far as we know.
But what if some thing created everything, and we're just, and that would mean it's invented. This is kind of like a sub-genre of your creators destroyers conversation. It's like, was the world like made, like invented, or was the world just kind of brought to existence and we're just haphazardly bumbling around figuring stuff out?
I mean, if you're looking for an answer for me right now, obviously I can't tell you. I mean, we can't empirically determine that.
Yeah, I think as it stands right now, I think it's kind of both. Because, like you said, that wrench example, I think, is a pretty good example. We invented the wrench, obviously, but the physics behind the wrench, like the idea of, like, holding something together, we kind of, like, figured that out. You know, we observe gravity and all the science behind the world, and we're like, wouldn't it be great if we had, like, a tool that utilized the principles of the world, and I use it for this specific thing?
So then we've just applied that into it, and that's how it came to be. Still
Kinda.
discovered, though.
Kind of, yeah.
Or you're trying to make the case for invented, right?
I'm trying to make definitely the case for invented. I'm just trying to come up with a really solid case right now.
Because we did invent the wrench. Like, this phone, this wasn't nature. I didn't walk. I mean, I did walk into the store, but I didn't, like, that store didn't just happen to, like, find this phone. It was made. But, like, what was it made of? It was made of a bunch of shiny rocks that we figured out were pretty useful for electricity and stuff. And Steve Jobs figured out that this glass on the screen is pretty cool, so he used it in his phones. And my case, someone figured out, it's like, people don't like dropping their phones, so let's make a case for it. Like, everything was, like, figured out. Like, someone dropped their phone and we're like, hey, it broke. It's like, well, what if it had, like, a casing around it? Wouldn't that be cool? So then they made a case. But they made a case based on, like, their perceptions of, like, what they know.
So I'm gonna be a math major for a second and go back to the definitions of things. So
Okay.
if we define things as discovered, like, what is something that is discovered? It is something that existed before without human intervention. Is that how you're defining discovered?
Yeah,
Just
essentially.
existed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then invented is therefore something that was just created by you, imagined by you, done by you, with no external input.
If we go
Isn't that
with,
impossible?
if we go with that definition, then both are valid, because there are things we did not invent, we just stumbled upon. Definitely humanity has had a bunch of lucky accidents happen in its favor, but then there are stuff that we did invent, like, because they didn't exist, we brought it into existence. So in that regard, I'd say both exist in our reality.
So what's an example of something we've invented? Like, no discussion had to be invented.
The silicon wafer, for instance.
A knife.
Didn't you make the point before it? There was just a sharp rock and people learned how to use it though.
But then we started making sharp, nice knives for steaks and such.
IKEA bought knives.
Yeah. Like a table. We used to sleep on rocks, and then we figured out, wouldn't it be pretty cool if we had like a nice rock, or maybe not a rock at all, maybe some wood, or maybe not even wood, maybe some cushion of sorts, like a sofa cushion
On top of the wood.
on top of the wood. It's like, and wouldn't it be cool if the cushion was made of like leather, Corinthian leather? It's like,
Wouldn't it be cool if you used memory foam? We can just take this to higher
Yeah, we
levels
could
of
just go
abstraction.
anywhere with it. Yeah, yeah.
no, the point
But that is the point, yeah.
Everything started from something, and that something, my argument is that something was found. We didn't make the original something. We took that something and made stuff. So in that regard, we invented stuff. But the original thing we found, and we said, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's use it. And
See, my gripes with the question are the fact that it's asking to compare an umbrella versus one of its subparticles, you could say. You know, like the umbrella term is that everything is discovered, and then what you described, he just logically proved that invention itself, in and of itself,
stems from
it is something that
discovery.
occurs as a result of discovery. Discovery is the fundamental point at which you start, and then you can invent because of that discovery.
I think that's true.
I'm in agreement with you.
Prove me wrong, I dare you.
Well, I don't want to because I agree.
That's why I'm so
Audience.
quiet over here, believe me. My
Audience.
gears are turning. I'm just not getting anywhere.
Your gears are
Audience,
turning.
prove me wrong, I dare you.
Well, think about it. Once again, I'm going to go into the glass filling mold versus the raisin bread. You can't really invent something that you don't know anything about. Because all inventions prior have come as a result of some kind of fundamental knowledge. You know, when we take things to higher levels of abstraction, it is because we already have some kind of schema of the world and how those things operate.
Sigh.
Well, like Newton, literally, you said it in the beginning. Newton invented calculus because he already decided that algebra was stupid. It was not fundamental. It was not enough.
Or he just didn't like it,
Yeah,
like most high school students.
yeah.
I'm just
But-
kidding. I love algebra.
But he goes and does calculus because he already knows the problems with algebra and where it falls short.
Yeah. He's pretty smart.
I always think back in terms of calculus. At least I keep thinking back to like objectively. I think math is hard. I don't know about you guys, but I think math in general is hard
Dude.
and complicated, and that's why people hate math because they're like, that's all it is. It's hard nonsense.
It's hard if you don't get it, which nobody gets it.
Yeah.
But like, let's just say that math is hard, just as a point, right?
Yeah.
Then like, wouldn't there be an easier way? So like, imagine that I told you, like
just-
if you want to make a left instead of making a left to go around the block, like
Make
three rights exactly. Like, what if there's just an easier way to do what we're doing?
It's life, isn't it?
I always believe there is an easy way.
I fully believe there's
Easier.
a better way of doing math.
I mean,
But then would that mean that we've therefore invented the other way of doing math? Or that it was also just discovered that there's another way to do it?
I think discovered.
What?
Like, you discovered it through trial and error. Like, that's weird. It's like, did you invent it because you experimented, or did you just discover it from haphazardly doing a bunch of stuff and being like, I figured it out, eureka?
I mean, you're merely talking about the process there, whereas
Is the process a process of invention or discovery, or both?
why are you doing this?
That's the thing. Like I think all three of us have agreed the origin of invention was discovery, but is invention discovery?
Well, no.
But like, what about cures for diseases? You figure out the combination of all that stuff. That combination always existed in the realm, in the sense that that combination was always going to cure your disease, but you didn't know it at the time. You just kind of kept trying to mix stuff up and like test it on the disease on a rat or a petri dish and figure out, like, does this cure the disease? We kind of need this. We're dying over here. And then you figure it out and you're like, I did it.
I don't like that because you start entering the thing where it's like, if it is possible, then like that's it. You can't give anything original in this life.
I mean, you're the one who discovered it, so you get to be like, I'm the guy. That's your original stamp on the thing.
But like that means that you haven't actually put a stamp on anything. You've just found something that was there. Like if I stumble into
Finders
the woods,
keepers.
No, that's not how.
Well, can you define original? Because if you've done something, of course, if we qualify the invention as something that resulted from a discovery, then yeah, technically it is unoriginal because it's based on something that already existed. But if it's something that we didn't know about already, like it's based on something that already existed, but it's not something that existed before in its own self way.
Like the wagon to the car.
Yeah.
You had a
I
four-wheel
think those
vehicle.
were an invention.
They were.
I think the wagon and the wheel were an invention.
The wheel wasn't an invention?
I think they both were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But my argument is like, is the car an invention or is it just an upgrade? You just attached a motor, which you figured out, onto a wagon, and now it's moving on its own without a horse.
So upgrade is no longer invention.
It can be, if that's
if that's how you want it.
It's all a bunch of fancy words that we have attached meaning to. If our meanings are different, then of course the answer will differ between person to person. I choose not to think that we can't invent stuff. We can make stuff like podcasts that are pretty cool and original. But as for like what it was, like I didn't like, for example, I'm really into video games, and as I've always repeatedly said, I'm striving to make a video game. I didn't invent video games, but I can still like make my own, if that makes sense. So I think like innovation, definitely now in the modern era, I think innovation is the era of modern day inventing, is in the realm of innovation. Do something that already exists, but do it even cooler than the other guy, and prove all those former people that you are the superior one. And then you get old, and then some other young guy is going to do that to you, and the cycle continues. And eventually, maybe we'll find out math was never flawed to begin with.
No, I can't disagree that it's not flawed. I have to say that it's flawed.
What I don't like is specifically about the three, ironic because math is based on axioms, but the three axioms of a perfect math system.
Complete, consistent,
and decidable. Those things, obviously, well, the guy Veritas, he showed that these mathematicians have proved this stuff doesn't hold true.
You mean Gödel?
Yeah, Gödel. Gödel. I don't know how to
I think it's Gödel. I think the R's not pronounced.
The O has like two
Gödel.
dots on top of it, so it's like a special sounding O.
Sure. Anyways.
I'm not German, so.
And Turing and all of them, they prove that there are certain things wrong with our current system right now. What I want to do is think of it on an even higher level. So if you were to take our current math system and sort of perform a Schrodinger's cat experiment on it. Say you wanted to find out all the stuff that we do know as a result of our math system and all the stuff that we don't know. How can you know either one in an isolated way? You can't. Considering if we take those three things that they've said, consistency, completeness, and decidability, if none of those things hold true, then how will we know if we have a complete, consistent, or decidable system? How will we know when we don't?
Maybe we're looking in the wrong places. Like the saying is, all you do is like you have a hammer, you go around looking for nails, right?
Maybe math isn't flawed. Maybe it's just the system we're using to perceive math is the problem.
Well, so that's my argument. Yeah. I think that we're using the wrong language to describe the phenomena that we kind of know to be true. You know, we're trying to talk to each other Spanish to English to Greek when we should all be speaking English.
So what is the base that you're arguing? You don't think the logic-based system is?
Maybe there's a different base.
I think there has to be. I don't know. It's very formalist of me to say it as well, But
That'll be our invention, discovering the true
mathematical system.
the true math system that actually is flawless.
Good luck with that, man. I've always had this intuition, for instance, that what we know now just doesn't seem to be it.
Maybe you just need to see it at a different angle.
Yeah, that's true as well. But the problem is that what happens if you see it at a different angle and it turns out to be the same perception?
Then
find another angle? Is that what you're going to tell me? But then you can just go a higher level of abstraction. Say, okay, go into a different dimension now. I'm going all around the circle. You remember that little thought experiment you gave us? The lasers and the tumor in the hand? I'm going around in a circle. Okay, why don't I go in the zeta direction? Why can't I go in the fourth direction? The all-encompassing time direction, if you will.
Why not?
Yeah. But you see that infinite it's not a paradox, that just infinity problem, that you can just constantly go higher and higher dimensionality.
I got some spare time.
You've gotten no closer to truth.
I got some free time tomorrow. I'll look into the realm of infinity and find something, maybe. You don't know until you try.
What happens when you start going
insane
inside it? Well, that too. But
yeah. But life is too short, right?
I think Godel went insane. The man.
He did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So shows what you know.
And
maybe we could just leave it be then.
You see, that's so funny. I was talking to my dad the other day, saying like, I've got so many questions, and it burns me from the inside that I just want to find answers to. And he literally told me, you're not going to gain anything from asking these questions other than a headache.
More questions.
I mean, to an extent, he's right. I can't curb my curiosity. I know you definitely can't. I know you definitely can't. But he told me that my own cousin is a very curious person as well. And he's like, I think the only thing I've gained from asking these questions are more questions and a headache.
Yeah.
But I'm also not sure that the answers would ever satisfy us. We talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
Did I pull anything?
No, we good.
All right. Yeah, I don't think that getting the answers would satisfy us. Let's say that, like...
It's the journey.
Yeah, I always hated that.
It's the friends we made on the way.
I always hated that phrase, but I think it's right, you know? I always used to say, like, it's about the journey, not the destination. It's like, no one ever went to Miami and said, yeah, the flight was great. Like, you know, like, that's always been my thing. But it's true. It is about the journey. But I don't think the answers would satisfy us at all.
I definitely wouldn't be satisfied.
Because then how would you know it's true?
Let's say it was. Axiom, whatever is told to you is true.
Okay, I want you to tell me then, where do you think math has it right? Aside from the fact that we've got all of society nowadays, and the fact that there's a computer recording us talking, and we're able to be here because of cars that, you know, have GPS and technology.
I can't give you more than that. Just because something works currently and we don't have a better way of doing it is sufficient enough to keep it around.
That's true, you know.
It's like a legacy solution.
Like in Rick and Morty.
It is just a legacy solution of sorts nowadays.
What does that mean, legacy solution?
So, like, there's legacy, there's another one, I think. But legacy solution is like a solution that just works, but, like, it's tedious and time-consuming and not optimal at all. It just works and there's no other better way of doing it.
So that's like just what you know right now, but it could be better if you knew the better way.
Correct. Yeah. So there was a couple in aerospace, but I forget what they were. But in terms of like building things and any kind of engineering, everything is just legacy solutions. There's definitely a better way of optimizing and doing everything better, and no one has found it yet. But we still do it because it's the only way we know how, and it's decently efficient compared to everything else.
Okay. Can I ask you a space question?
Yeah.
You know anything about space?
Very little.
Is it possible to like grow anything on like the Earth has an atmosphere that allows us to like have life on it, and I think the Moon and Mars are sort of close enough that we could theoretically do it, but obviously not right now. Could you create an atmosphere?
I've actually thought about it a lot. So like let's say Mars is like the most inhabitable one for us right now. So let's say if we just like completely threw in, I don't know what Mars has on its atmosphere, but let's say that it's all just carbon dioxide.
It's a lot of iron dust.
If we were able to just throw a bunch of dirt on it and we already have all the carbon dioxide there and just water the plants, theoretically, would it create its own ozone layer, atmosphere, and be inhabitable in, let's say, like 5 million years.
I don't know. 5 million.
I mean, it takes
I
a
have
while
plans.
for trees to grow and create an
I
atmosphere.
mean,
and
I have
stuff, so
plans
it's
in
like,
5 million years. I don't know if I'll make it to
I got a
Mars.
date, you know. It's
Yeah.
like I can't.
My car's in
know.
the shop.
I don't know. Is that what terraforming is?
I think it is.
Isn't that? I thought you build a dome and you just like do stuff in the dome.
Because you're creating your own mini environment. But if you do that on a large enough scale, you've therefore created it on the planet.
So is like Mars just gonna be like
A bunch of domes
dome
and
cities? Why not?
I think it would be. Hey, you're essentially creating your own little greenhouse.
But I'm just wondering, like, could you like actually make Mars like full of life?
I believe so.
You're
Totally
just
believe
asking if Mars can be terraformed. I totally think
I don't know
it
what
can.
terraform means. It sounds like
so. Making
Earth.
it like Earth.
Oh,
Point blank.
can you?
Yeah, I think so.
I
I just don't think we know the way yet. Which means
I don't know why that wouldn't work. Honestly, I think it'd just be actually really expensive. Probably
Yeah,
it
why
wouldn't
didn't
work.
Mr. Musk? Why didn't he just go up there and plant some trees?
Plant a bunch of trees? Just put a bunch of seeds in the
So
ground.
silly.
Let it go.
they might die. That's kind of how that atmosphere
You
works.
don't know
right
until
now.
you don't try, Pete. That's the moral of this podcast episode. You don't know until you don't try.
You mean try?
To stay positive.
No, you said
Oh.
you don't know.
Until you don't try.
No, you want to try
You don't know
until you try.
until you try. Yeah.
Are there things you don't want to try?
Pete, you don't know unless you try. That's the moral of this episode, Pete. You don't know until you try. Okay?
I believe it.
So let's just call Musk and ask him to like order some seeds and stuff.
I'll email him tomorrow.
He already
You think
has
I'm
to.
kidding? I'm talking to
He's
SpaceX.
being totally serious. He's not joking. He will literally do it.
Nice.
Not him. Hopefully not him. I'd be pretty scared if I got an email from Elon Musk.
He
I messed
said-
up pretty bad if Elon is emailing
He
me.
said, Nick, we need you now. We need to send some skilled person into Mars right now to save the Earth. And we chose you.
You better pick somebody else, man. I'm not going straight up. There's no way. I can't get on a roller coaster. You think you're sending me to Mars? Like,
Yeah, I asked him before. He's like, I'm not going up to space.
oh, it's so funny. Everybody says like, oh, so like you do aerospace engineering, so you're an astronaut, and I'm like, no, I'm an aerospace engineer. I don't want to go there. I just want to send people there. You know?
He's a rocket scientist.
Not yet.
Not
I get the
yet.
qualification in a year, technically.
So when it's our time to talk about rocket science, we know who to call.
Yes.
Yeah, not me.
Not
Well, if you wanted to talk to anyone about how to build a circuit or a computer, don't come to me.
Don't come to you. We are not experts yet, but we're a work in progress, like most things in life, like math, for example.
Yes. He doesn't like it, but he
I don't
knows
like
he
it.
has
I really
to.
don't like it. I'm in the back here just frowning.
Well, on the bright side, on the journey of discovery, finding the things that you can't really know to be true unless you try. You have to.
Stay positive, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.